Bob, thank you so much for joining me here at LSI
Pleasure.
Europe.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit about AIM Medical Robotics.
Yeah, so AIM, the company was formed about 2.5 years ago when we licensed this amazing technology from Worcester Polytechnic Institute outside of Boston. The inventors of our robotic technology have been working on this for the past 10 years. They were funded by the NIH in the range of $15 million. So tremendous amount of energy and effort has gone into making what we think is a kind of a game-changing technology for our initial case, which is neurosurgery, but other platform areas as well.
Tell me, why is it game changing?
Well, for years, physicians have told researchers and others, hey, could you help us get into the MRI? Can you help us use MRI as our imaging modality for our procedures? It's better on soft tissue for sure. So seeing things in the brain, it's the imaging choice of imaging modality of choice. It's also safer. If you're using CT, you're giving ionizing radiation to the patient and to the surgeon, which is not good for either. But the MR is a difficult space to work in because it's a giant magnet essentially. So they said, can you build something that will help us operate in the MR space? And that's what we're doing with our robot. So our researchers, the inventor of the technology, has been able to build a robot essentially that can work in the MRI space. So you think, well, robots are big, they're made of metal and all those kinds of things, and that's not the case at all. He's been able to figure out how to build a small, compact robot that can fit in the MR scanner with the patient and allow them to use that excellent imaging modality of the MR.
Your robot works with MRI to provide real-time visualization of the brain.
Absolutely.
What else can it do?
Well, so if you think about a patient in the MRI scanner, if you've ever been in an MRI, it's a big tube. So the physician is not going to be there trying to reach in to treat that patient, to manipulate instruments. So our second generation robot will be able to manipulate instruments for the physician at the command of the physician while the patient is in the MRI scanner. So that procedure can be done more accurately with a higher level of precision driven by the robot, and faster, more efficiently, so that the surgeon ultimately will have that control, will be looking at images from the MR and then tell that robot exactly what to do and how to do it safely. So we think there's this huge benefit not only for the patient, be able to treat these patients better, but also in terms of the health economics of the procedure to do it faster, more efficiently, turn those rooms over, be able to treat more patients.
Real-time MRI is sort of the holy grail of neurosurgery, but there are a lot of challenges involved with it. As you mentioned, the giant magnet is a starter.
Sure.
How have you guys addressed those challenges and solved them?
Yeah, so it's really kind of the secret sauce of what we do. So what our researchers have found out, that you have to use particular types of motors that are unique for that MR environment. You're using particular types of materials, so non-metallic materials. You also want to be able to create electrical systems that have very low level noises and are protected and shielded. You want to be able to do that in a way so that you can have this entire unit in that MR field and not interact with the imaging. And after a lot of years and NIH money, our team has been able to figure that out.
That's great.
Where others haven't.
Why don't you tell me a bit about the sort of initial indications or procedures you're going to be implementing this technology in the NeuroSuite?
Yeah, sure. So there's really two main indications for neurosurgery. The one is the placement of electrodes for deep brain stimulation. So patients that have Parkinson's disease, where their drugs, they become resistant to their drugs, and so their symptoms are getting worse and worse, and so they'll become candidates for surgery. And so electrodes are placed deep in the brain, and that helps to control their tremors and other aspects of the disease. But again, they're placing those electrodes very deep in the brain. They're trying to get to that spot without causing any other trauma. So they're doing that through very fine holes that they're drilling in the skull and then advancing instruments. So our ability to help them place those electrodes exactly where they need to be in the brain without them interfering or damaging healthy tissue is one of our big indications. And today, there's a fairly significant number of patients who go for that treatment and the leads are misplaced. They're in the wrong location, and only have to miss by half a centimeter or so, and the treatment isn't working. So we want to make sure they hit those targets the first time, every time, and doing that under MR guidance is the best way to do that. The other is for brain cancer. So there are certain brain cancers that where if the cancer hasn't spread widely throughout the brain, and you have smaller lesions or smaller tumors, there's an opportunity to go in and ablate or kill those tumors with some type of energy source. And so the ability to very accurately not only locate that tumor, but when you destroy the tumor, you want to make sure you're only destroying the tumor tissue and you're not hurting the healthy tissue on the margins. And again, you're talking about millimeters and even sub-millimeters of accuracy to do that. And doing that under MR guidance is, people say, is the best way to do it. And that's what we're trying to help our surgeons do.
So your real-time guidance, a GPS for the brain,
Yeah.
is there a navigation component to your technology as well?
Yeah, sure. So you have this, procedurally, the physician will take a preoperative scan. It might be a CT or an MI. And they'll use that scan to map out or create a map to initiate the procedure. But once they're in the MR, they can update that map, just like Waze does today in your car or Google Maps does in your car. So if there are changes that have occurred inside the brain, the MR can pick that up. So there's the constant communication between the MR scanner, the planning navigation software, and then the robots. So think of it as a kind of a closed loop, constant updating of the information that the MR is able to provide, and then the physician being able to appreciate changes that have occurred, and then instructing a robot to move and reposition itself accordingly. So constant closed loop feedback is a key element of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's my understanding that there are a disparate number of different technologies being used to image, navigate, and then advanced treatment in the brain, and you guys are combining it all into one solution.
That's you've said it better than I do.
Well, that's fantastic.
It's a great way to think about it. And I worked for a company called Hansen Medical, and we were doing robotics where we were helping surgeons and interventional cardiologists and interventional radiologists drive catheters in the bloodstream. So they would insert a catheter in the groin and they'd run it all the way up into the brain or down the leg for procedures and things. The robot was a spectacular piece of equipment, could do amazing things with catheters, but it was 170 pounds and it was fixed to the side of the operating room table. It got in the way, the nurses didn't like us, hospital administrators didn't like us. So when I saw this equipment, our robot, which is very small, very lightweight, it has to fit inside the bore of an MR scanner, we said, let's make that portable so it can move from the MR here one day to the operating room here the next day. And I think the end users, physicians, nursing staff will appreciate, but hospital administrators will really appreciate it because they'll get a bigger return on investment from the purchase of a single robot that can move into different environments within the hospital.
That's amazing. I want to talk about what's sort of next after neurosurgery, but before we do that,
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about the market opportunity for your initial indications.
Yeah, so there's, again, the biggest indications we're going for right now are for brain tumor biopsy, so finding the tumor, identifying the tumor, and then ablating the tumor, as well as deep brain stimulation. If you combine those numbers, both in the US and around the world, there's probably, in the range of 300,000 particular procedures. And there are other procedures that we've heard our neurosurgeon physicians talk about. Some of the kind of cutting edge work going on today revolves around the implant of stem cells and gene therapy and cellular therapies that they're directing, again, through these small burr hole incisions directly in the brain. Those types of therapies are in phase 2 and phase 3 clinical studies, but they want to do that all under MR guidance as well because they want to see where those cells are going to in the brain as they place them. So there are this kind of ongoing market of procedures, but we see this as an enabling technology for more advanced new procedures that are happening in the neurosurgery space.
So let's talk the next couple of years after you guys have tackled deep brain stimulation and brain cancer. No small, challenge there. Are you going to stick to neurosurgery? Are there other neurosurgery indications you're exploring, considering?
Well, I think that the MR capability, that visualization, what you get out of the imaging of the MR is where we're focused today, and we'll be able to capture a good bit of that market. We get interest from lots of folks for going outside of neurosurgery, and my board likes to tell me to stay focused beyond neurosurgery. Don't listen to those people yet, but it's clear there are opportunities like prostate, the treatment of prostate, which is where a lot of this work initiated, because again, it's a very small target. It moves around. It's hard to get to using, say, ultrasound as an image guidance modality. So prostate is an application. Doing biopsies for liver and kidney cancer, and then ablating those cancers is another space that we have interest in. And whether we take that on ourselves or we eventually partner with somebody in that space that could help us advance that technology, we certainly have our eyes on that. We think this can be, once we've proven it in brain surgery, that this can be a platform device for other areas of therapy. And when people see that you can do it in the MR, we think there will be a lot of interest from moving other procedures there.
Tell me a little bit about what stage you guys are at right now. Are you clinical? Are you doing in human testing? Talk
Yeah,
about
so
that.
I mentioned earlier how the inventors had been granted over $15 million of NIH grants. They were able to build prototypes in the academic environment that have actually been used on humans. There was a 30-patient IRB study done at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston for prostate. The inventors have also had 2 NCI-sponsored animal studies for ablating brain tissue that they've done. So those prototypes have been used in that clinical environment. We are essentially taking those prototypes and reconfiguring, rebuilding them under design control and all the guidance that the FDA provides us, and building them out for commercial use. So we have built our first prototype of the commercial system, and we're essentially doing our benchtop testing with that right now. We will continue to advance that design, and we'll probably be doing animal studies with that in the next year.
The support of the NIH, it sounds like, has helped you guys a lot, but are you currently seeking additional fundraising?
Yeah, so we're here at this great meeting, thanks to the folks at LSI, and we've raised about $3.5 million in a seed round, which we closed at the end of 2021, and right now we're looking to raise another $15 million in our A round. So we've been meeting with venture capital firms here, and there are lots of folks already that are well aware of what we do, and the LSI meetings have been a great avenue for us to get the word out, and we enjoy coming and being a part of it, and it's been a great experience for us.
Could you talk a little bit about sort of the territorial or regional strategy? Where do you guys see yourselves first going to market?
Yeah, so we'll essentially be probably first in the United States, but we clearly want to be in Europe as well. So our testing process, everything that we do will be kind of a parallel path of trying to get into the U.S. and into Europe as well.
That's great.
Yeah. Depending upon the FDA and what they ask us to do, if we need to do clinical trials for the FDA, we will certainly do them. There's some indication that we might not have to based on other predicate devices that are in the market today. But as soon as we have a system available that can be used in humans, we'll be testing that somewhere around the world.
It's safe to say that you have a truly disruptive technology. And Bob, I want to thank you so much for coming by and talking to me a bit about it.
I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And again, very much enjoy what you guys do at LSI.
Thank you.